Chapter 2. The Butcher's Invitation to Dinner. Sans trudged along through the tall, thick grass, glaring at it with his one good eye. He hated the stupid grass, especially when he had to crunch down, and it tickled the hole in his skull. This grass could go to hell. He knew what awaited it. He had been there until recently. He humped a laugh at his own dark joke as he continued around this side of the cabin. There had to be some dumb animal somewhere that had stepped into his brother's traps. There had to be. Because he wasn't going to let his brother go hungry. Never. Not in hell and not here. The sound of movement caught his attention, and he crouched as he got closer, the grass tickling at the hole in his skull as he hated. He suppressed a growl as he looked around for what was making the noise, giving a tug at his near-dead eye socket to keep himself on track when another noise distracted him. There. A human. Of fucking course. You go out in the middle of fucking nowhere where no one around, and humans still find a way to appear. They're like pests. Well, maybe it wasn't such a bad thing that a human was there. He'd had pests before, and while not his favorite flavor, it would keep his brother from being hungry. That was the important thing. Sans straightened and shoved his hands into his dirty jacket pockets before making his way towards the human. He was pretty close, though not dangerously close yet. Not anymore, anyway. When he didn't have enough magic to fuel a longer-range attack. It was always easy to get close enough to his prey, though. Ridiculously easy. You just had to distract them by talking until you were close enough, then boom! A swing of the axe and they were dinner. He still wasn't in danger range when she looked up and saw him coming closer. She didn't say anything, just watched him as he got closer. Mistake. Soon to be a deadly mistake.
Hey.
He greeted laxly. Hey, she greeted back, a little calmer, though still reserved. She continued to watch him as he got closer, her actions in making a fire abandoned.
About dinner time, huh?
He commented. Yep, she answered with a false cheer. You have dinner planned out? Sans' grin curved wickedly.
Not quite yet. Got some ideas, though.
Her eyes went to his feet to gauge how far away he was and his pace, then swept around the area before settling on him, her head turning as she kept an ear out for anyone else. You planning on sharing a pot? She asked. He had no idea if it had some other meaning than joining the food of 2 or more households for a meal, so he went with what he knew.
No, not a lot left for us to share.
Listener felt her heart pounding in her throat at his low, gravelly voice. She wasn't afraid of monsters, though there were some that were intimidating when first meeting them, and she lived Halloween enough to have grown up seeing skeletons all over, even spooky, gruesome-looking skeletons like this one. What was making her hair rise on the back of her neck was the complete feeling of terror he seemed to be striking in her without even trying, the survival fight or flight that she relied on at her now previous job picking up automatically. Thin veiled threats of... She wasn't sure if cannibalism was the right word. Cooking her for dinner wasn't helping either. She thanked God that she'd just re-upped her training before all this bullshit happened, so all the moves that her take down a client 2 or 3 times her size mid-rampage was still fresh in her mind. She swiftly moved her hands up, taking the band from her hair and putting it up higher and tighter so it wouldn't be an easy grab if it did come down to a fight, meanwhile keeping him talking. So you're out here camping too, huh? Sans was thrown for a moment, his eyelight flickering. Oh yeah, that's right. He'd forgotten that this area used to be a campground before the others had bought it for their purposes.
Could say we're here long term.
He was still moving forward, straight towards her. He and whoever else was included in his us lived out here. Listener stored that with the observation that he slowed down with the strange red light in his eye socket had fizzled a bit.
You registered for the plot?
Sans asked as he got closer, knowing damn well that she didn't, since there wasn't a way to. Uh-huh, she stuttered, standing. From this distance it looked like she was taller, or at least the same height, and it made her feel a bit better, though she hadn't really expected to be shorter than him anyway. You the campground manager? She asked, slightly thrown off by his question. Sans chuckled. She was doing very well at seeming calm, but he could smell her fear. She was smart, trying to keep an eye on her surroundings, trying to keep some sort of edge on him, trying not to give him any information. But none of her cleverness was going to help her in the end. She was still going to feed his brother. His eyelight slid over her, taking in her height and form. She was bigger than he'd first thought, about as tall as him. He didn't feel like he had the strength to carry her heavy human ass all the way to his and Pap's cabin. He would if he had to, but why not make it easier on himself?
Well, I do live in the cabin right over there, and I am one of the owners.
He gestured in the direction of his cabin.
You could come do the check in there. Don't have the necessary things to do it here. Obviously wasn't expecting anyone out here.
She deflated. He pushed. She suggested doing it in the morning after breakfast, in the daylight, giving her a chance to get away. He insisted. He had her backed into a figurative corner, blocking her path to the truck. It was again too dark to drive away from here. This is it, Listener thought. This is where I die. I somehow ended up in a horror movie. You obviously don't go with the murder in the movies. It's the most basic rule. But in her gut, she knew, with absolute certainty, either he kills me here, or I go with him, and buy myself some time. All the things she ever remembered hearing survivors of kidnappings and other things say started playing in her mind. Humanize yourself. Make it so he can't see her as an object. How did she do that? Aren't you afraid of it being too dark? What if I can't find my way back after? She asked, hoping a small vulnerability might endure her a little.
I wouldn't worry about it.